Okay.
Okay. I
What
see
is-
a red light on.
Okay, well, you can look into the camera if you want, but what is your name?
Oh, Stan Weber.
Oh, yeah? And when were you born?
June 15, 27.
1927.
Yes.
Okay. And what is today?
Today is Friday. 10th.
Today's the 11th.
Oh, the 11th. I thought
What-
it was 10. That's yesterday.
What day is this?
It's Friday, the 11th.
It's September the 11th.
Oh, okay.
What year?
2015.
Okay. And where were you born?
New Orleans in Hotel Dieu.
Hotel Dieu. Was that a hotel or is that a hospital?
It was a hospital.
Oh, yeah?
Been torn down since then.
Oh, okay. And you were an only child?
Actually, I had a sister, but she died before I was ever born.
Okay. And what did your parents do for a living? Or
Well, my dad worked at the American Sugar Company until he got disabled, and he tried all sorts of things. He made a machine to separate the good from the bad rice, but never could make it pay off enough money to keep it going, so it didn't work. So then when he got incapacitated, he decided to do something, and so he bought a little printing press and started from there and doing that, and gradually built up more and more and got the stores downtown to let him do the personalized printing, the small stuff, not commercial. And went from there. And then he decided, I'm going to do, he bought a house and raised it up on Carrollton and made a business underneath. And so they had a gift shop there. They did that for years, and then he decided that in his wheelchair, without ever doing it before, he went out and built a motel on Airline Highway.
so that was 3240 Carrollton Ave, South Carrollton,
Yeah,
corner of Forshee, and 5021 Airline Drive now, out near Transcontinental. Okay. So he had a printing shop, a gift shop, a motel. He started off in the sugar business. He was in World War I, and he was in a wheelchair as a result of something from the war.
arthritis from the war.
Arthritis from the war.
Well,
Okay.
he was in the trenches when you stayed in water the whole time, and he thinks that's what happened because he was a star athlete prior to that.
Okay.
Hey,
And so where did you go to grammar school?
P.A. Capto, where I met Granny.
That was grammar school.
Yeah.
No kidding. So you met Granny in what grade?
I don't know what grade it was. All I know is that I remember when she wanted to sell me cookies. That was all.
Okay. So she
Yeah, 'cause she lived next door to the school.
Right. Well, I thought Capto was a junior high.
No, might be now.
Oh, okay. So you met Granny at grammar school, and you went to the same church, Gentilly
Yeah, right.
Presbyterian,
Correct.
corner of Franklin Avenue and Gentilly Boulevard.
Right.
Okay. And where'd you go to high school?
Well, I went to three of them. First, I went to Warren Easton. And I had three jobs that I was doing, and so I was making money besides going to school. I had three paper routes. When I decided one was good, one I had two, and that two, I said, why not get three?
Wow.
So I had three of them, and of course that kept you busy because in those days you had to collect the money every week, and that was a bummer because so many people try to beat you out of it.
Right.
Now they take it out at the home office and pay you. And then I got too cocky, and I didn't last there for all sorts of reasons. So I went to Rugby Academy on St. Charles Avenue, and that wasn't enough discipline for me in my own mind. So I went to Jefferson Military College.
Where's that located?
Natchez, outside of Natchez, Washington, Mississippi.
Right.
And I really liked that, so I next summer I made enough money to send myself back there for the senior year. And so that's what happened. Then I finished the paper routes.
Mm-hmm. So you graduated your senior year in high school at Jefferson Military Academy.
Right, 1945.
In 1945. And,
no, yeah, 45.
Okay. And then where'd you go?
Into the Navy.
Ah, you went into the Navy.
Yeah, right.
There's a war going on.
All right. And Granny and I wanted to get married, but they all said, we like you and everything else, but no, because if you get married now and she gets pregnant and then you get killed, what's going to happen? So we'll make you a deal. When the war's over, we'll give you all the okays that you need. So that's what happened, and it wasn't but a couple months later the war was over. So right after boot camp was over, then I came home and got married, and then I went off into a battleship, West Virginia, in the Pacific.
Where in the Pacific were you?
Oh, well, all over the Pacific, but basically out of San Francisco and then out of Seattle, which is Bremerton, basically.
Right, right. Well, tell me what it was like growing up in New Orleans.
Well, of course, all I knew was since my daddy was incapacitated, I had to make money. So I did everything you could think of. I tried to shine shoes. I tried to be a usher at the Cabildo. I also then found a way in the war to collect newspapers and hangers and sell them. So on my wagon, I built a contraption to hold all of those things. And I'd go around every door and try to get some. And that's what I was, when I wasn't old enough to do a paper route or anything else. And then I went to McCune Pharmacy and worked for them for a while on Gentry Boulevard. So that's what happened.
It's interesting, all these things that I didn't know about you this whole time. So the Depression, the Great Depression was going on.
Yeah, that was tough because all I ever heard from my mother is, we can't this because your daddy doesn't work. We can't this because of that. You can't have this. You can't have that. That's what I guess pushed me into going out and making my own money.
So how were things for your family during the Depression?
It was all right because grandmother lived with us and she had a little money. Not much, but a little. And so she helped out.
And your grandmother was the one that was married to John Peter Weber.
No,
John J. Weber.
No,
No?
No, she was married to that guy up on the wall, Archie Pierce.
Archie Pierce. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So it was your Boston end of the family, the New England side of the family that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that was who you called Granny at the time.
And I did what?
You called her Granny?
Oh, no, now, not then.
No. What did you call your grandmother that was living with you?
Oh, Grandma, I guess. Hey, that's been so many, 60-something years ago.
Okay, okay. So growing up during the Depression, it was tough because your father was incapacitated.
Right.
But luckily, your grandmother came to live with you and helped out.
Yeah. She lived with him for a long time, and not just then. Long time. And then every once in a while, my grandfather would visit, but he was then broke, so he didn't contribute anything.
Now, which grandfather was that then?
That was my father's father.
John J. Weber.
Right.
Okay.
And for a while, until he got married and went off as a dentist, my uncle lived with us.
What uncle?
My mother's brother.
Oh,
Alta's husband.
Alta Pierce's husband.
Right.
I just forgot his name.
Well, I always called him Mike. It was Merwin.
Merwin Pierce.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
All right. So Merwin lived with you. Okay.
But then he went off and as a dentist in the Louisiana trailer deal and got killed on the highway, so he was gone. So naturally that was a void. So later on, when grandmother died, we had some more room, So then my parents decided to make some more money. They'd take in boarders. So that's what they did. So that's where we are.
And what street were you living on then?
Well, on Spain.
Spain Street in
Yeah.
Gentilly?
Yeah.
Because I remember you also lived on Walmsley, uptown, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, but that was way, way, way back. Back when I was a little infant.
Okay.
Yeah, but we lived in two houses on Spain. My daddy built one, and we sold it and went down the block and bought a lot and built another one and built it so that upstairs was a separate deal that we could rent out.
Apartment?
That they could rent out, not we.
Yeah.
That they could rent out, so we had some income there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the war ends and you graduate from high school and you go in the Navy and then you get out and you get married. Then what happened?
Well, then I went to Tulane, and I've said the only thing I could get was what's the easiest thing you can take? Arts and science. I said, well, that's not going to do me any good. So I heard of this school that was just opening up that was in foreign trade. And what I liked about it wasn't like a regular college, even though it was a college. It was full-time the whole year, not any time off and not any just hours. It was from morning to way afternoon. And it was a 2-hour deal, a 2-year deal.
Uh-huh.
And so we did that and got out of that, and we had it all set up for us to go to Argentina. And that fell through. So then I went to work for an electric company. I can't come up with it. Anyway, and they had a division of Columbia Records, and why I don't know, but they put me in that and let me do that, which I never had experience of doing that.
What were you doing? Selling records?
Buying
Records?
Buying records from Columbia and sell them to all the people that wanted those records.
So you were a distributor?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was a strange deal. Why, the guy that ran it, guy named Mathis, said, I like the way that when you talk to me, you're smiling all the time. You can be a good salesman, so you're going to do this. I said, well, when I got in there, I said, I ain't selling. So anyway, that's what happened with that short trip.
So you went to Tulane. You were in this foreign business. You were going to go foreign trade.
And when I graduated, they had an embargo, and so that's why I couldn't do anything there, and that's why I went to a company.
Okay. So you were in the record business for a while, and then what happened?
I'm trying to think what the sequence was. What was the next step? It seems like from there, my folks wanted me to come work for them, and they needed some more help having both those businesses. So I did.
The gift shop and the printing shop.
Next door to each other in the same building.
On Carrollton Avenue.
Yeah. So after a while they decided, well, they're going to do that motel, and so then they sold all that to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I did all that for I don't know how many years, and I decided that when once Christmas, being both peak times in both those businesses, I collapsed and I decided, I think I better get out of this. So at that time I was looking around to do something, and my daddy said, why don't you come out to the motel instead and sell those? So I sold the printing business to Jack James that worked for me.
Right.
And sold the gift shop, and I can't remember her name, but she was a widow. Anyway, I sold and went out there, and that was horrible because it was 7 days, 24 hours. When the phone rang in the middle of the night, when somebody come home and didn't have their key, or somebody, anything at all. And of course I had the septic tanks that you had to maintain, which was a real terrible job. And I could lose so much weight there. I decided, well, wait a minute, I got to do something else, because this is no good. So I got out of that. And I think that the next deal was I went to work for Charlie Conman.
No, I think it was Flint Inc.
Oh, Flint Inc. I forgot about it. Yeah.
Flint Inc. And you also were a photographer, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, see, I didn't even think of that as a job. But yeah, Flint Inc. I traveled. And
so you sold Printers Inc.
Printers Inc. And I didn't think I could do that, but Matt Crawford said, I'm going to teach you how to sell. And so he did, and it's fine. And then they say the next thing, after that got old and not making that much. I did the children's school pictures, I'm trying to say. And that traveled all over the state. And that didn't make that much money because the guy that owned it was getting to me. So from then I went with Charlie at the opening of Terrytown, selling houses. And I decided
Terrytown was a new development of a new subdivision on the west bank of New Orleans.
Right. And so I sold a bunch of houses, but it turned out that you only got paid $50 a house.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and then they tried to beat you out of that too. I mean, that you got to prove that was your client type of thing after it's all over. So I said, oh, this is terrible. So I went to work for Grady Harper.
Well, didn't you also do something on the North Shore with Charlie Conman?
Oh, yeah.
Riverwood?
Right. That's before I went to Grady. Yeah. Riverwood for Charlie. And I stayed there for a while. And after I got enough of them sold, they wouldn't open up any more of the area. And all they had left was the bad ones. I said, well, I can't make any money here.
And you were driving a 61 Volkswagen across the causeway.
Right.
That was only 2 lanes.
Right.
So it was very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
At the time.
I remember one time coming up over a hump, and there was a log truck with the logs sticking out, and I almost ran into that. And I said, oh, boy. So I went to work at Carey and Harper.
Real estate.
And
on Fern Street, uptown New Orleans.
Right. And had a real good time there and did real well. And I wanted to open another office. Open an office in Metairie. And so they finally let me do that. And then after a while of that, I decided, well, I could do more than that. So let me get another office too. So I wanted to get an office in Lakeview. And they said, no. So a little time went on some more. And Lyle Carrier, one of the partners, decided he wanted to sell out and wanted to sell to me. Well, in those days I didn't have any money. And Grady Harper, the other partner, said, I'll lend it to you. He said, I want you as a partner, but the only thing I'm worried about is you'll work me to death. And so I didn't do that. I went out on my own. And he, in years over after that, he kept shaking his head how we jumped up and did so much in the business.
So you started Stan Weber and Associates in July of 1966.
Is that when it was? I didn't remember.
And tell us about that.
Well, it was such a hard thing to get started. In those days, there was no ways you could go to any other agent in any company and ask them to join you. That was a real no-no. So starting off, I just had some that came with me without asking, which were from Carey and Harper. And we scraped everything we could together, because I started with $10,000, and that was all, which is not too much to start a business and buy the furniture and all the other good stuff you got to do. So Granny was then coming to work for me as a secretary. Well, that didn't make it. She wasn't the right one for that job. And I finally said, you get me one. So she hired a one-armed man for my secretary, which of course I didn't work either. And things just kept on rolling and getting more agents and more sales, and things worked out to be going real good. And then I bought that place on Lake Villa and moved there out of the rental thing that we were in.
3117 or something like that? Lake Villa?
Yeah, but then years...
Block off of Veterans.
Yeah, but later on then we bought the one next door too.
On Rye Street.
Yeah. So that was a experience, and things will keep on going. And I remember in that building was the first month I ever sold $1 million, and we had to celebrate. And I got a whole bunch of husbands mad at me because I was serving champagne and the wives got loaded. But I thought it was the proper thing to do. So it went on. We kept on increasing in agents, and then I started expanding more. And in bad times, everybody else was pulling back. And I decided, well, you know, if they're pulling back, that leaves a slot open for me. So then I opened up some more offices. That's what we did. And along that time, I hired Ritzy Hicks. And she is a driving force behind things too. And she was a barrier for anybody to come to me without going through her first. She was a tough old broad, as you well know.
Oh, yeah.
You can attest to that.
Oh, yeah, I can.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a deal that we went on, and finally I decided that I was not feeling that great, and I thought I had worse health problems than I did. So I decided to sell. I went to Merrill Lynch, which they came to me and wanted, and I turned them down. And again, I went back to them, and I sold it to them, and went about my business of doing nothing.
So I remember coming home one night from youth group at church, where we went to Parkway Presbyterian Church in Airline Park, and nobody was home. It was my birthday, my senior year, and you were taken to the hospital. What happened?
I had that birthday party, and it was ham and everything else, and I started throwing up, and it was red, and I thought, well, it's that ham. Well, pretty soon, Granny got nervous, and next door was a friend of ours, a doctor, John Eggert, and he came over, looked at me, he said, you going to the hospital right now? And I said, well, John, wait a minute. He said, you are, so I went. And while I was there, they decided they didn't know what was going on, and kept on throwing up, and one time I hit the wall, and the little nurse that was taking care of it told Granny, said, well, he's not going to make it, he's gone. So I lost all the blood except 1 pint, and they only be able to get blood into me by my foot, and there was no other way they could do it, so they did that. But then they did exploratory surgery with 2 guys in the middle of the night. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, I believe they told me, and opened up and found out there was an ulcer, and that was the problem. So then I had to get blood. So the attorney that was above us at Carey and Hopper in that building, Saul Gothard, was a friend and a Jewish guy. So he gave me some blood, and for years later he kept saying, you never made any money, so you got some Jewish blood. So he's now he was a judge.
A judge, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that was an experience, and it took me a while to come back from that, because then I got hepatitis. Because in those days they didn't have any way to check blood to see whether you had hepatitis, and so I got from some guy that had it. And it causes you a lot of headaches and pain, tired. So I then took into the idea of every noon coming home from the office and taking a nap and then going back to the office, and that's what I did for many years. And so till this day, I still take a nap after lunch because of that deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
you started Stan Weber and Associates in July of 1966, and you had a little office on Veterans Boulevard,
right,
right near Green Acres.
Yeah.
And then you bought Lake Villa, and then you bought the place next to Lake Villa on Rye Street, and then you opened up in Lakeview and the West Bank and New Orleans East and Slidell and Mandeville and Hammond. And
but somewhere in between there, we bought Veterans Highway.
In 1972, in October of 72, you bought 3841 Veterans and moved the operation there, right?
Right. And sold the Lake Villa there.
Right. So you bought that building pretty good, didn't you?
Yeah, I worked a deal out with that guy that owned not 7-Eleven, but those other ones I used to be. Convenience Steels.
Randy Richmond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked a deal out with him, and if I remember serving right, I only put $15,000 down.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Pretty good deal to buy a building that's worth over $2 million. Probably.
Yeah, but not now. I mean, now it's different. I mean, back then it was not worth anywhere near that.
Right. So you went all the way through until November of 1983, and that's when you sold the business to Merrill Lynch.
Right.
And then what'd you do?
Then Granny and I just traveled, went around the world 3 times, went around the South America and every place. And going back to Europe, I imagine good 18 times. And once it took Scott, and another time we took you and Ryan. And we did nothing but traveling the United States. And I remember driving to Nova Scotia. And from Nova Scotia, driving down the coast and stopped at every little town, and ended up in Key West.
God.
Yeah, that was quite a trip.
That was a long drive.
Yeah, right. But anyway, that's what happened.
So you also retired at what age?
56.
56?
Yeah.
Not bad.
No, not bad at all.
No.
No.
And how old?
At that time, I thought things were going until Murphy and Goche got me for. I figured out one day it was.
Well.
What?
Well, you don't want to say all that on video, but anyway, some people took advantage of you and ended up with quite a bit of your money, is what you mean, right?
Right.
Okay.
So that put me back, and then I tried with attorneys, and I was just nothing but spending money. So Granny finally said, "Oh, look, why don't you just stop? We can do without it." So the guys that took everything made me an offer of $75,000 for all the stuff that they. And when I told the old attorney that you had, I used, went back, he said, "Oh, you take that? Well, we're not going to do anything at all then." Oh, no, we're not going to do the deal at 75, that's it. But he pushed them and they made them pay the 75, and then we had to sign off on it to release them. Because they claimed that because I was a director on a bank, that I forced them to buy all these properties, which they had to borrow some money to do. And I said, well, there's no way you're going to force attorneys to buy something, but that was their whole gimmick.
Yeah. So they beat you out of a lot of money.
Yes, and I got the wrong attorney, Jack Marcel, and he filed in the wrong parish, and that's what tore the whole thing apart.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, so moving on, So you are, how old are you now?
88.
88 years old.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Oh.
And you've learned a lot. You've had a lot of life experiences.
Uh-huh.
And this video is for your great-grandchildren.
Uh-oh.
How many great-grandchildren do you have?
Right at the moment, 5.
5. So, what would you like to tell your great-grandchildren?
Oh, well.
What words of wisdom do you have? What would you like to guide them with into the future?
Well, the only thing I can think of is what it'd be hard for anybody to do is make sure that financially they put enough money away that they'll be self-sufficient and can retire early like I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hard thing to do, not buying this, not buying that, don't do this, don't do that. But if they did that, then they would be secure when they got a little older. But it's hard to explain that to young people.
Okay,
They
well,
don't understand that.
as they get older, they'll understand what you mean.
Yeah, well, older, but then it'd be too late then, you see. So that's, well, they can, it's not going to work. So, but that was the main thing that I could think of offhand.
And what lessons have you learned that you think, other than that one, might be helpful to your great-grandchildren?
I learned that whenever I would do something big or plan on doing something big, I would talk to God. And I'd never, on all the oil wells that I drilled, I never once asked him to bring one in. All I asked him was, should I buy into that, but not the other way, and say, look, that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
So to this day, I still talk to him quite a bit, and just recently, with all my health problems, I haven't been able to sleep. So I talked to him one night and said, help me go to sleep, and I did. So every night now, I talk to him about, in my prayers are finished, I ask him to let me go to sleep. And it works. Now, I don't sleep as much as I used to. I used to sleep 9, 10 hours. Now it's 5, 6. If I did 7, it'd be great. But that's one of the main things that I believe has made us successful, was having advice from them.
Strong
now,
faith.
People say, well, you don't hear him. I said, no, but it gives you, when you ask for help like that, they don't come, he doesn't come right out and say, do this, do that. It just makes you end up thinking which way to go, and you go. And he's led you that way. And I would like to think that all the grandchildren would, and great-grandchildren, would do that, because that's a big thing.
I think they are. So you have a very strong faith, and I've always had it. And as I recall, you used to tithe. You used to give 10% to the church?
Well, back when I got out of high school, I was, I don't want to say elected, but I was approved to go to school to be a minister. And then when the war came along, and of course when I came back, that meant 7 years. And you were born by then, and 7 years, so that didn't work. So that's when I went to Tulane, and had a Tulane, then I had a regular job. And after I graduated from that other college, Granny said, I think I want to go to work. I said, why in the world didn't you, when all I'm struggling all these years going to school and a job? Mm-hmm. So that's where she decided she wanted to have a job. Now so she started teaching substitute school.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that something about oil business, oil and gas.
Okay, was big, and I still receive checks from the oil business. I'll invest in wells. I wasn't the one to make the decision where to drill. I was only an angel. And one year I did so many, it averaged out to be one a week.
Wow, so you had 52
of them.
52 hit in a year.
And of course, now that wasn't every year. But of course, with that business, so many of them never did come in. And then, along with the oil business, I had a situation, have a lottery for, the government has a lottery for land. And it costs you so much for each one that you apply to for the lottery. And so we won a number of them. In fact, the biggest one we got $300,000 for. And they never did drill on it. We were hoping, since that was so much money, they'd be drilling on it, but they never did. Marathon Oil bought that one. So after a while, I got to thinking that this partner of mine, Sidney
Lazard,
and I got together and got a company to do that, and have people then apply, and then we would make money out of that. And whenever we'd win, what we'd do is have Brian Bell collect the money, but we'd put it all together in partnerships. And so, unfortunately, the biggest one of all of them turned out to be mine. And it only turned out to be so many people in it. I only had 5%. But I was getting, at times, every quarter, somewhere around 10,000. So you can imagine.
Okay, we're back. We ran out of memory a second ago, but now we're on a different camera.
I want to correct the sequence of which comes first. When you asked me what would be the thing I'd give to the advice to great-grandchildren,
okay,
I wanted to put God first and then finances second.
Okay.
Because I was not thinking right. Okay, so then some of the businesses that we had was a chemical company called Foresight. And I was chairman of the board up in Denver of the company. And I had a local warehouse here I'd bought. And
on Zenith Street.
Huh?
On Zenith Street.
Yeah, right.
In Metairie.
And got a man that knew what to do, what's a chemist, and worked for us. And so the only problem we had is we couldn't sell too much. So Mac Crawford, my good buddy, decided that he was going to come in and we're going to be partners, and he's going to sell and he's going to do it all. Well, it turned out to be that that didn't happen, and I just kept putting money in and money in and money in and money in. And I don't know how much I ended up putting in that thing to make it go, and it never did go. So we quit and I sold the warehouse. We also bought apartments and strip centers, and we did that for a while. And we also, for a while, had a license to be a contractor, and we built some townhouses. What else did we did something else that, a business, and I can't think of it right now.
Didn't you have a water softener business?
Yeah, I tried that, and that didn't work. It's hard to get somebody selling all those things, so that one didn't work. But there's still something else. There are two other ones I can't come up with. But anyway, that didn't make any difference. It was not that big a thing. And what else we got to do?
Well, that's up to you. What else would you like people to know about you, or in the far future remember about you, or what?
No, all I've got is I had it happen today. My physical therapist came in and started smiling. I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Well, you know, I was only here once, but when I went home, I talked to my daddy and said, 'Do you remember Stan Weber?' And he burst out laughing. He said he had monopoly on real estate in New Orleans. Of course, I know who that is. I don't know him, but Yeah, he was a big time deal. So that's the type of thing that and the manager of Louder and Bloom over here at a luncheon, he called me an icon. So that's the only thing I can come up with. I was very successful in a short period of time, and everybody kept asking me, why Daddy start the business? And no, I didn't. I started it. And I still wonder if I kept on, what would happen, what would have been. But I didn't, so it's over the bridge.
You were in a group called Masterminds.
Masterminds was a group in real estate that would meet and have all sorts of things for 3 days of different ideas of what they're doing in their town or city, and also would compare financial statements and to show what is what. And it turned out that everybody had different opinion in regards to agents. And they wouldn't let me in the first time that they tried because my agents weren't all full-time. But the last time that we had the meeting and they looked at all the financials and compared them, they found out I was making more money than any of them. And that maybe changed their mind of thinking what to do. And then I went on...
With regard to hiring part-time agents.
Yeah, right. And there's a company called Home Equity that would buy and sell houses of people being transferred. And they called me and wanted me on the board of that. And that was very lucrative because then we got so many more listings. And one day I got a call from Better Business Bureau. And can I come see you? And I said, well, they want to sell me a membership. And so we come is because we've checked into it and your company is the only one that doesn't have all the complaints and are all above board, and we'd like for you to be on our board. I said, whoa, I think I could like that. And it wasn't a paying board. And then they wanted me to end up to be president of the board, and I said, no, Same way I didn't want to be president of the real estate board because everything you do, you're going to have people saying, no, that's not it. So that didn't work. And then at the same time, Paul Prudhomme wanted me to be on his advisory board. And so I did. And but the crazy thing is that with that restaurant, he never even gave us board members anything, not even meals. And one day I got a call from his secretary saying, well, we're going to disband the whole thing. Bye. He didn't call. He didn't tell me. I thought that was pretty sad deal.
At K. Paul's Kitchen?
Yes. And then right before that, a minister by the name of Brown had a deal of for drug addicts, and he had me on his advisory board to see what we could do about helping people that were dopes. So I went through that for a while. And it got to be other things, but I can't remember.
Are you an elder in the church at Parkway Presbyterian?
No, not an elder, deacon.
Deacon,
and I served that for a number of years, and that was tough because being a community where people were transferred, so many of the other deacons were transferred, so I ended up with 3 jobs at the church, and that got to be too much. So finally my terms were up, and so I got out of that. It's like anything else at church. Once you volunteer, once you take on a deal, they after you from there on out. This person that's going to do things.
Right.
And I still can't come up with all those other companies that we had. But it doesn't make any difference.
Well, the point is you've had a very long and successful life, and you've worked very hard to get what you've gotten. And everything, it's paid off for you, right?
Right.
So
it has that.
So
now I can live comfortably.
You can live comfortably. You have a beautiful home, and you know Granny's out there. She's 89 years old, And you got a bunch of nice cars in the garage, and
Well, and also I have it worked out that it took me a while to do it, to have investments that are all tax-free. So I end up not paying income tax.
right.
And that's been gone for years. I've been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that made a lot of sense to me if it was legitimate. I don't
Right.
mean anything that wasn't, because that would go against me, going to do something that wasn't legitimate.
Right. So you made your money legitimately.
You're right. Hard, but made it.
Well, good. Well, anything else you want to tell people?
I can't think of anything. Like you say, it's been a good life. And it's a good thing we did all the things we did when we could, because we can't now. Can't do all that good stuff we did of traveling everywhere and traveling all first class. So, that's it.
That's it.